the sort of narrative that has continued on through that. And this was, of course, the Talib Meadows dust up, as it were, where Mark Meadows had found the African-American who works for the Trump organization and brought her to the hearing to prove that Donald Trump was not racist.
Exactly.
And Talib, of course, said, that's sort of racist that you would do that. And then Meadows started to pretend to cry because he knows that he's not racist. He's never uttered a racist thing in his life. He has nieces and nephews who are people of color. And then, unfortunately for him, videotape exists. And there was multiple clips of him basically saying, we're going to send Barack Obama back to Kenya.
It was exhausting doing this segment yesterday because you get into the riff, and I would be like, all right, so there's Mark Meadows saying that. And then I would go, and they'd be like, no, there's actually another clip.
Right. And so here is Mark Meadows now having to explain why he said this race. Oh, do you have one more clip of it?
We did play this one yesterday.
Oh, you did? How long is it?
It's shorter one.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just play the short one, and then we'll go back to his response.
Right.
This is him as a candidate.
It's good to be here with you today. I thank you so much for allowing me just a few minutes to talk with you and share a few things. But, it's interesting when the more we find out, the more we realize how wrong the direction we're going. And so what we're going to do is take back our country. 2012 is the time that we're going to send Mr. Obama home to Kenya or wherever it is. We're going to do it.
Now, Barack Obama, of course, is an American, and
well, he doesn't look like one.
and apparently that was Mark Meadows. But before we judge him, let's ask him why he was starting his campaign speeches by implying that that Barack Obama should go back to Africa.
It was early on in the primary, and certainly it didn't indicate any personal malice that I would have towards any president, previous or sitting president. Anyone who knows me knows that there is not a racial bone in my body.
Not a racial bone in his body? Did he say that on purpose?
Yeah, he said, I don't have the extra racial bone that makes you not be able to swim. No, I'm sorry. Oh, that's racist too. Ask Elijah Cummings.
Don't judge me on my actions. Judge me on the contents of my bones.
Right, exactly. And what's amazing is that his defense is literally like, look, I just use race as a campaign tactic, not as
I was racist for the primary, and then in the general, I toned it down.
I sat my sweet little nieces down, and I said, listen, your uncle's going to need to say some things over the next couple of weeks. This is a top primary.
He also says it's not about personal malice to Obama, but people aren't saying it's because you're mean to Obama. They're saying it's because you have malice towards a race. Because
That's right. That's right. I mean, he couldn't have been more sort of nakedly non-denying there, right?
I get Sean Spicer vibes from him a little.
What does that mean?
He kind of looks like him.
Oh, okay.
Red face screaming.
I was going to say emotionally unstable.
Same
in
batch.
a profound midlife crisis that has implications for other people.
It's extraordinary. And on some level, like, Elijah Cummings should come out, it seems to me, and say, like, I'm a little bit disappointed to see that video. At the very least, there should be a coda to this where he says, like, yeah, I gave him cover in the hearing, and yes, we're good friends.
But he put him in a bad spot. He was like saying, Mr. Chairman, I was about to say Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, you can vouch for me, right? Like, what is he gonna do? Nope, I can't.
Actually, even though we have drinks occasionally,
I feel like
you are extremely racist.
I feel like Cummings could have been like, you're a good guy, but I know.
I would say you're racial, not racist, to paraphrase Omarosa.
Well, he
Anyways,
does have
Mr.
a racial
Lee,
bone.
right.
So.
I think Elijah Cummings legit, and I know some people don't like this, but he is a Christian. Like, honestly, like, that's the whole way that exchange, like, and a lot of things he did on that committee. He's trying very hard to take his faith seriously.
I mean, if Cummings did body slam him at that moment, it would have made it all worth it, like actually building a relationship
I would
with
have
him
loved
over all
it.
those
Yeah,
years.
he's just
Let's
like,
also-
and now you realize we never were friends. It was all the build-up, honky. Democrats
I don't-
2019.
I don't want to blow past the fact, though, that the reason why Mark Meadows has to spend the next 2 days defending the fact that he's not a racist, which is a difficult task for him, is because Rashida Tlaib had the wherewithal and the strength
Clarity.
to say this in a hearing where I don't think that we have ever had a class of Congress people which would include people who would do this on a regular basis, at least not in the past 20, 30 years. I mean, you had people, call out Jeff Sessions, but it was a more formalized process. This was like she was just commenting on something that happened in the committee, didn't have, it was obviously off the cuff, and good for her. But this is important, right?
Yeah. Well, part of Pelosi's shrewdness about, I guess, I don't know how involved she is in committee assignments, or the party's shrewdness is they put Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, these strong progressives on the oversight committee so that they could be just constantly attacking Republicans, as opposed to a lot of people were really concerned about AOC, especially highlighting the hypocrisy and criticizing the Democratic Party. But it is so nice to see these deeply progressive Congress people like Ro Khanna and the people I just listed have this platform to go after the Trump administration. They can be the bulldogs, and at the same time, they'll still be critical of the Democratic Party. So it's deeply refreshing, and I think that their interrogations, or not interrogations, their questioning was the most effective and the most memorable out of all of the questioning.
And there is a broader context in which they're raising these issues, right? Like that it's not just simply Trump bad or Republicans bad. There is a foundation of a proactive politics from which this criticism comes.
Like if this was a Senate hearing and Cory Booker was on the committee, he'd spend 80% of it talking about himself, not letting people answer questions. But Ocasio-Cortez especially was just trying to get to the facts. And I found that refreshing.